Well, I received a letter this morning, although we were told by the solicitors on the phone yesterday. This is from our solicitors, headed, Dear Mr Griffin, Regina, that's the Queen, because the fiction is that this is all being done by the Queen instead of Tony Blair, and yourself. Allegation inciting racial hatred. We write to advise you that your case has been mentioned at Leeds Crown Court today, which means that there was a very brief hearing with the judge and a couple of the solicitors there. Your trial has now been put back by 2 days. This matter is now listed at Leeds Crown Court on the following dates, starting on the 1st of November 2006 at 10:30 AM. Please attend court no later than 10 AM on this date. On this matter, you're granted unconditional bail. So, what that means is that everyone who's from all over the country had arranged to take time off work and come to Leeds. Many people I know on this Sunday night, ready for a 9:30 start for a demonstration outside the court. On Monday morning, all that's now got to be cancelled. Vehicles, coaches booked and so on have got to be put back. I don't know, there's no way of telling. Is this because a previous case has run on, so the judge isn't available? Or is this because the Crown Prosecution Service, and particularly West Yorkshire Police, were very, very keen to have a smaller demonstration, primarily by us, but also, to be fair to them, from the far left, who were going to be there on Monday as well. They'll still be there on Wednesday. Of course, the problem is that most of our people work, so for them they had to arrange time off work and so on. You do it once, you can't reschedule it. The far left there, you're either dealing with students, dossers, or town hall parasites who can get time off work at the drop of a hat. So they'll be there, so it'll cut down our numbers, that's for sure. I hope it doesn't cut them down too much, but I understand, and so does Mark, that some people simply won't be able to change and get there to switching it from Monday to Wednesday. So if you genuinely can't be there, no one's going to think anything worse of you. And like I say, whether this change was deliberate or whether it's just one of those things, well, we'll probably never know. But there you go. It's Wednesday, the 1st of November, 9:30 for 10 o'clock for the demonstration outside the court. It should now run on, obviously, through all of that week, the first week in November. It'll definitely now run on into the next week. I suppose we're looking at probably finishing, who can tell, Thursday, Friday of the following week. My guess will be the Thursday. And so stand by to try and get there then, because obviously, as in the last 36 hours or so of the case, we get an idea of when it's finishing. We'll be trying to mobilise, and again, a really big turnout, because the media may keep this side of the case covered up. After all, to an extent, it's old news, because a lot of what's going to be discussed as evidence has already been discussed. Certainly in my case, I've got some very interesting new lines and angles of defence, concentrating solely on the speech that I made in Keighley, which is now the only one for which I'm charged. So there will be some new material, but overall it's going to be pretty much a rehash. That makes it less interesting to the media, so we may get less coverage. But whatever happens on the final day with the verdict, I think that's going to be big, big news. So again, we need the biggest demonstration possible. And as I wrote in my blog recently, please bring flags, bring placards, but bring flags on poles. Don't have the flags draped around your back. We're not a bunch of football fans. So be really smart, particularly because we're coming up to Remembrance Day. Every single person there should be wearing a red poppy. All ex-servicemen should be wearing their medals at all times. Let's really put on a show for the people of Leeds and for anyone who sees it, if the media cover this case more widely. Because they might blank it completely, because I'm sure that the left Liberals will be aware that things have changed. My legal team was saying, I saw them the other day, and they were saying that even since January, when the first round of this trial came up, there's been a huge sea change of public opinion and media opinion, and of course how even the Labour Party are covering this case. Now, if you've seen the interview or discussion I did with Simon Darby, which is on the Altimedia site, we go into that issue at length, what on earth the Labour Party are playing at, why they've changed at least their rhetoric so much since, well, just in the last few weeks. So I'm not going to go over those issues again, but you can see for yourself. Here's just one example. This was the Daily Express, October the 7th. Ban the veil. Muslim women must reveal their faces. say 97% in exclusive poll. And day after day after day we've had coverage like this in the Express, the Mail, the Sun, pretty much all the newspapers really raising this issue now. It's transformed things, and really and truly the jury should look particularly at my speech and say, well, what on earth is this in court for? Because there's nothing in here which isn't said day after day to audiences of millions by the mainstream papers and even by the Labour Party. So really it should go, but we don't know, do we? We don't know if the jury's going to be rigged. Do they even want to send me to prison over this issue? I think from the political point of view, everyone's aware that it would be the very best thing that can happen. I don't want to do time personally. I'd rather be here. This is far nicer than a prison cell. But who can tell? Politically, perhaps it's a thing that has to happen. Perhaps fate will take a hand. We simply don't know. What I do know is that because now the only speech that I'm being tried for was the one in Keighley, where we were talking about the problem, the appalling problem in that town of Muslim paedophile gang rapes and these drug rape gangs picking on very, very young white girls there, and the shocking police inaction over all of this. Because that's the sole speech, I'm hoping there's at least a chance that this will break that taboo. Because apart from the local newspapers in a few places, and one and a half programmes on Channel 4 now several years ago, the mass media still haven't covered this issue. They're all talking about the veil and Muslim extremism and how it's spreading through the ranks of young Muslims and how multiculturalism is dead. They're all talking about this. But this is the last taboo, this fact that in every area of this country where there's a significant Muslim population, you've got this problem which they call grooming, but which we call racist paedophilia, with some of their young men picking on particularly vulnerable young white girls, or in certain areas young black girls, Sikhs, Hindus and so on. And the question as to why this community alone produces this sexual predation just across the board, this has to be got into the open and addressed. If this case breaks that taboo, so that's talked about as well, I'll be very, very pleased indeed.